Hey there, guys. Welcome to Flick Charting It, the show that tries to answer the age old question which movie is better? This is Centerline Reviews. I am your host, and we're going to go over to the website flickchart.com and compile our list of the best movies ever made. So let's get started. Our first matchup is Wedding Crashers versus The Usual Suspects. Wedding Crashers, very funny movie, but this is no contest. The Usual Suspects wins out. Next, we have The Hangover versus Back to the Future Part 3. I actually love The Hangover. It's one of my favorite comedies, and Back to the Future Part 3 is kind of the weak link in that series, so I'm going to go with The Hangover. Runaway Bride versus Eurotrip. Actually not seen Runaway Bride, so now it is Beetlejuice versus Eurotrip. And this is no contest, Beetlejuice. Next, we have Back to the Future versus Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible, solid movie. I think the franchise started to get better towards the later years, but none of them even compare to Back to the Future. Next, we have Rocky versus Batman Returns. Oh man, I hate Batman Returns. I think it's terrible. Of all the Batman movies, other than Batman and Robin, I think it's the worst of them, and so Rocky wins this one easily. Rush Hour 2 versus 28 Days Later. I actually have not seen either of these, sadly. Next, we have Batman Returns again versus Superman 2, a much better sequel to a older superhero property, and Superman 2 wins easily. Next, Batman Begins versus Live Free or Die Hard. Very Batman-heavy episode. Batman Begins, easy. Borat versus Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest. Dead Man's Chest is an awful... All the pirate sequels are terrible. Don't watch any of them. State of Play versus Total Recall. Actually, haven't seen either of these movies. Sorry. Superbad versus Hook. I haven't seen Superbad. 2001: A Space Odyssey versus Hook. This is 2001: A Space Odyssey. I actually like Hook, but 2001: A Space Odyssey is definitely a classic among all classics. Nope. Just no. Air Force One versus South Park Bigger, Longer, Uncut. I gotta go South Park. Air Force One's kind of a fun movie, but South Park is pretty amazing. The Bourne Identity versus Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Best Bourne movie versus probably worst Harry Potter movie. Easy choice. Bourne Identity wins. Okay. Ocean's 11 versus Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Ocean's 11, obviously. The River Wild versus Shallow Hal. I've not seen The River Wild. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom versus Shallow Hal. Shallow Hal's a funny movie, but come on, Indiana Jones. Let's not even talk about it. 2001: A Space Odyssey versus Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I haven't seen Oh Brother, Where Art Thou. Sorry, Coen Brothers. 2001: A Space Odyssey versus 10 Things I Hate About You. Alright, I'm honestly the only person who would ever even pause at this question. I think 10 Things I Hate About You is fantastic. It's one of my favorite romantic comedies, favorite high school movies, but I can't, as a film critic, say that it is better than 2001: Space Odyssey. Avatar versus Gone in 60 Seconds. I overall just did not watch Nicolas Cage movies, so next. Avatar versus Batman and Robin. I feel almost inclined to pick Batman and Robin because I hate Avatar so much, and Batman and Robin is at least funny in kind of a so bad it's good kind of way. But credit where credit is due, Batman and Robin should never win anything, so god damn it, Avatar wins. Who Framed Roger Rabbit versus Catch Me If You Can? Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Catch Me If You Can's... I don't think it's that great. Alright. I had a little technical difficulties there. Okay, coming back. Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom versus Batman Forever. I actually kind of like Batman Forever, but Indiana Jones, come on. Spider-Man 2 versus Aliens. There are two sequels that a lot of people think are better than the original. I don't think either of those things are true. But the Aliens franchise is definitely better than the Spider-Man franchise, so I'm going to have to give them a nod. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory versus Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. I already told you about the Pirates franchise, right? A Clockwork Orange versus Naked Gun, whatever, I haven't seen it. Clockwork Orange versus Home Alone. Home Alone, it doesn't stand up. It's probably because I didn't watch when I was a kid, but it doesn't do it for me. The Bourne Supremacy versus War of the Worlds. War of the Worlds not very good. I wouldn't recommend watching it. Ice Age versus X2 X-Men United. X2 is definitely one of the best superhero movies ever made. You got Sir Ian McKellen right there. He is the man, and him doing anything is better than anything in Ice Age. Star Trek, the reboot, versus Police Academy. I've never seen any of those kind of movies. Star Trek versus Twister. I hate Twister. Twister might be one of the worst movies ever made. And I don't even like the Star Trek reboot that much. Live Free or Die Hard versus The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. Yeah, Lord of the Rings beats almost everything. Never seen Short Circuit. Bruce Almighty versus Casino Royale. I'd say Casino Royale. I mean, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back versus Star Wars Attack of the Clones. It's one of the few Kevin Smith movies I haven't seen. Versus Jurassic Park, obviously. Attack of the Clones is awful. It is truly awful. Rocky versus Men in Black 2. Rocky. Snow White and the Seven Dwarves versus Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest. I don't like Snow White, but once again, pirate sequels. Austin Powers International Man of Mystery, it's the first one, versus Star Wars. And Star Wars because Star Wars. The Darjeeling Limited versus Spider-Man. Need to catch up on a few Wes Anderson movies I've missed. The Scorpion King, definitely something I don't need to catch up on. The Little Mermaid versus Spider-Man, Little Mermaid. Sam Raimi Spider-Mans are better than the Mark Webb ones, but that doesn't make them particularly good. Ooh, this is a good one. Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith versus V for Vendetta. I know I said Attack of the Clones is awful, and it is, but Revenge of the Sith is actually kind of a bit of a return to form. It's not nearly as good as any of the original series, but it is pretty good. And V for Vendetta, I think, is a bit overrated. So, but saying that, V for Vendetta has better acting, better screenplay, and actually has something to say about society, so I think just a principle gets the nod here. Lost in Translation versus Home Alone 2. Yeah. Donnie Darko versus 300. Donnie Darko. Easy. Donnie Darko is so amazing. Almost Famous versus Saw. Okay. One of the worst movies ever. One of the best movies ever. Worst movies ever. Best movies ever. Groundhog Day versus Home Alone. Groundhog Day. Red Heat versus Die Another Day. Two action movies I have no interest in seeing. Jurassic Park versus Fantastic Four 2. Jurassic Park. The Princess Bride versus Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. You know, for a second I thought this would be one of the good Indiana Jones movies and this would be a competition, but no. Princess Bride. Princess Bride also beats almost anything. Napoleon Dynamite versus Jurassic Park 3. Another thing that's terrible, Jurassic Park sequels. Stand By Me versus Monsters, Inc. Holy shit. You got classic Pixar versus arguably classic of American cinema. And I'm going to say what's a better movie, it's probably Stand By Me. But Pixar, you can't top Pixar. They are the kings of the universe. Except recently. They used to be kings of the universe. But Stephen King and River Phoenix, I'm going to give it to him. Just don't even worth saying. I've actually not seen Spinal Tap. That has to be way, way, way up on my list of movies I haven't seen. Dumb and Dumber versus Superman Returns. Oh my god. Superman Returns is terrible. Dumb and Dumber has never worked for me. I just don't think it's funny. But Superman Returns is so bad. Dumb and Dumber just because I don't want Superman Returns to win anything. Not seen Notting Hill or Rescue Dawn, by the way. Panic Room versus The Happening. Okay, if you haven't seen The Happening, it is amazing. It's god-awful, but it is amazing. But I'm not degrading David Fincher by picking it. The Blind Side versus Windows. I might have seen Windows. I don't remember. I haven't seen this right now. Lion King versus The Blind Side. Lion King. Oh, The Blind Side, but come on. It's The Lion King. Cars versus Anaconda. I've never seen Anaconda, nor do I plan to. Ace Ventura, Pet Detective versus Cars. I think Cars kind of gets a bad rap. I like it, but come on, Ace Ventura. That is... If you've never seen Ace Ventura, go watch it now. Full Metal Jacket versus Contact. I hate Contact. I also hate the second half of Full Metal Jacket, but come on. Just Arlie Ermy just screaming insults is probably the most entertaining thing on the earth, besides listening to J.K. Simmons scream insults at people. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom versus Pineapple Express. Next. Back to the Future versus Mission Impossible. I think we had this one already. Goodfellas versus Silence of the Lambs. Holy shit. Okay. These two are easily in my top 15 favorite movies of all time. Silence of the Lambs is so creepy and ominous, and the performances are so good, and it is so hard to watch, especially that scene. You know what I'm talking about. But Goodfellas is ultimate Scorsese awesomeness that is just technically perfect and hysterical and amazing. Oh yeah, Joe Pesci gets all the credit for that movie, but I think Ray Liotta really sells it, and I gotta go Goodfellas. Oh man, pains me to make Silence of the Lambs lose against anything. Do 5 more. I haven't seen Dogma. I do want to see Dogma. It's shown by list. Actually, I never finished The Truman Show, so I'm not gonna pretend like I did. Aliens versus Avatar. Wow, the James Cameron off. Good James Cameron versus god-awful James Cameron. Aliens. Just make Avatar lose as much as possible. Pulp Fiction versus Toy Story. Okay, these are both my top 30 favorite movies of all time, but this is not even close. Pulp Fiction by a mile. Bourne Supremacy versus Transformers. Bourne Supremacy. Alright, 2 more. Slumdog Millionaire versus Cloverfield. Come on. Danny Boyle, Slumdog Millionaire. Great movie, great director. I think it deserves all its praise. Cloverfield is meh. I really hate found footage movies. They just don't do it for me. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon versus Dumb and Dumber. I really need to get around to watching Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Spider-Man 3 versus Dumb and Dumber. Jesus. I don't hate Spider-Man 3 as much as everyone else does. Alright. I'm just going to find a good one and go out on that. iRobot versus Good Will Hunting. Good Will Hunting. Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines versus Rocky. Rocky. The Princess Bride versus the Italian Job. Princess Bride. I've not seen Charlie Wilson's War. I've not seen Liar Liar. Ooh, there we go. Before Sunrise versus Silence of the Lambs. Before Sunrise, great movie. Richard Linklater. All the praise in the world, but come on, Silence of the Lambs wins. Alright. Next I'm going to take us into the top... I'm going to take us into the list and do about a little bit of sorting, and then show what our current top 20 favorite movies of all time are. So we'll do 10 matchups of top 20. Alright. First, 2001: A Space Odyssey versus Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. If you told me to watch Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom or 2001: A Space Odyssey, this is no contest. I would watch Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom every single time. But Indiana Jones is the weakest. This is the weakest of Indiana Jones movies. And 2001: A Space Odyssey, I stand by, is the best directed movie ever made. So on that, I'm going to give to 2001: A Space Odyssey. The Hangover versus Superman 2. Say Superman 2. It's better. The Bourne Identity versus The Usual Suspects. Usual Suspects. I love The Bourne Identity, but come on, Usual Suspects. Aliens versus South Park Bigger, Longer, Uncut. I know there are people that would crucify me if I pick South Park over Aliens. And because of that, I'm going to pick Aliens. Ocean's 11 versus The Bourne Supremacy. I'm gonna say Ocean's 11. Honestly, Bourne Supremacy. I'm kind of beating on the Bourne movies right now, but I mean they're good. But Steven Soderbergh, Brad Pitt, George Clooney. Back to the Future versus Usual Suspects. Usual Suspects win their last match in a blowout, and Back to the Future beats them in a blowout. And finally, Beetlejuice versus 2001: A Space Odyssey. Oh boy. I don't care. I'm saying Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice is absolutely it is my childhood. It's one of my favorite movies ever, and I don't care about common logic or sense. So Beetlejuice wins. Now we're gonna take a look at the top 20 list. So counting down from 20 to 1, number 20 is X2 X-Men United. 19, The Bourne Supremacy. 18, A Clockwork Orange. 17, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. 16, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. 15, Avatar. That makes my skin crawl, and we have to do some serious reorganizing of this list. 14, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. 13, Ocean's 11. 12, The Bourne Identity. 11, South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. 10, Aliens. 9, 2001: A Space Odyssey. 8, Borat. Really? Borat. Number 7, Batman Begins. Okay. Number 6, Rocky. Number 5, Beetlejuice. Number 4, The Hangover. Number 3, Superman 2. Number 2, The Usual Suspects. And number 1, Back to the Future. Alright, so come back next time, do some more rankings, fix up this list. This is definitely not the way I want it. Need some major changes and some major flick charting. See you next time.